empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? 4 to 6 seconds, 0.8 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order Christmas Eve before the first day of Spring Ball edition. This is a pretty wild and exciting time for us on the Ohio State beat, for the fan base, for the players especially, for the new coaches, for Ryan Day to see if how all of these major hires he's made, how they gel together. For most people, the biggest thing I can akin it to is maybe the first day of school. A lot of these guys, they don't know how Jim Knowles is going to be on the field running the show, and Perry Eliano, Tim Walton, Justin Fry. What drills are they going to be getting into? I'm sure they've done some kind of walkthrough stuff, as much as they're allowed to do by NCAA rule during the winter workouts. But, now they've got helmets on. They're going to knock out 2 practices this week. Then they go on spring break. And then as soon as they get back from spring break, it is full pads and ready to roll. So, with that, we appreciate all your support. Again, the site's growing like crazy. It's been fantastic. So all you gentlemen and gentlewomen, appreciate if you leave us a like, give us some comments, give us some feedback, and subscribe to the channel because, again, we're growing, and it's not an accident. You guys are spreading the word. You guys are helping us. The Scoop family is amazing, so we appreciate you. Keep the momentum going because this is going to be an awesome summer of coverage. And then obviously next season is going to be amazing. So with that, I'm going to bring in my good friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Excited. This is like JT Tumaleave Eve. This is a very exciting time. And, we get a chance to see a little bit of spring football, and I can't wait.
So since you want to bring up JT Tumaleave, why don't we, let's go back in time real quick about our little harebrained scheme where you said, it would be really great if somebody would go to the airport and cover him landing. Cause I think that's going to be a big deal because he's the only guy that's coming and he's by himself and he's the number 1 player in the country. And when I'm hearing this, there's only one guy that's actually going to end up having to do this, but talk a little bit about that. It ended up being a stroke of genius because people, to this day, tell me how much they loved it, and the coaches that weren't at the airport, I don't know what he is, were watching the live stream. But tell me a little bit about that because that was actually a pretty funny suggestion that turned out great.
Well, that was fun. That was a fun one just because the excitement and the anticipation about his official visit had been off the chart, and they'd been talking about it for so long, and just all the rumors for all the different schools, and it was just fun to see him come through that security gate and then interact, and watching your interactions before that with the staff, with Larry Johnson, with just everything about that was just classic. I'm not sure you could replicate that one if we wanted to. Again, it was just kind of like catching lightning in a bottle, but that was a fun one, and I'm sure we'll have another fun, great, exciting recruiting story going on this year. But that was one for the ages last year for sure.
Yeah, and it was such an anomaly because he came in like on a random day. It was the middle of the week by himself, with his family. I mean, it wasn't like there were 10 official visits going on at the same time. It was just him. So, they had the whole brigade, and like I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but like when I got there super early. I actually got there with Clay Hall from ABC6. We drove over together because he wanted to cover it. I was like, Clay, you should probably cover this. You'll probably be the only guy there with me, and then you'll have great video. But like, when I see like Kerry Combs show up with a Hawaiian shirt on, and then I see, Parker Fleming, and I see, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, they all have the same shirts on. This is great. And then they've got the Hawaiian, they have the flowers, the Hawaiian, the leis, and I was like, oh my God, this is like just amazing content right here. So as funny as it was, and I don't really get embarrassed because this is part of the gig. Because you gotta, if you want to do like the things that really move the needle, you got to do stuff like that. I mean, you got to go where nobody else wants to do it, or some people might be too cool for school. And I give credit to Dan Hope because he showed up and he was there. Kevin Noon was there. I was there. But I mean, it was great content, and the live stream was crazy. People were going nuts asking questions, and it's just one of those things. I was glad I was able to be part of it, and thank you for that suggestion because it was fun. So let's get back into spring ball a little bit. This is going to be an interesting one because we have basically a whole new staff on defense minus Larry Johnson. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to hearing, in this first week? No pads. But just some of the stuff that we're going to hear from the players. There's going to be players, interviewed tomorrow, coaches interviewed tomorrow. But what are you looking forward to kind of hearing about over the next 4 to 5 days?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're going to. We talked about touched on the defense, and we got to remember that this is the one of the first times that the guys have had a chance to have sustained interaction with the players, and it's they're getting to know the players one by one, and the players are getting to know the coaches, and I think Knowles has got a huge thing been handed down to him from Ryan Day to fix the defense. And so, how is he going to go about fixing the defense? Is it personnel? Is it scheme? Is it a combination of those things? One of the guys that's been a key for this, and we've been talking about him a lot during the offseason. We talked about it a lot before last season, was Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer's up to 270 pounds now and faster than ever. And I think he's the guy that's going to be looking to make immediate impact in this defense. And he's a guy that Knowles is going to be leaning on to do some interesting things. So he'd be a name I'd watch out for. And as good as he was last year, I think he's going to be even better this year. So that's one of the things. Obviously, watching the offensive line, trying to improve upon that epic performance of last year, number one in the country in total offense and scoring and just about every metric you could possibly have. But what does Justin Fry do with that? And does Donovan Jackson put a hammerlock on that guard position? That's those are the things that I'm looking for in the spring, and it's going to be fun. Anytime you have football, it's going to be great, and anytime you have Buckeye football, it's even better. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the transition. Paris back to left tackle is going to be huge. Obviously, DeWand and Luke are entrenched at center and right tackle, the spots they manned last year. But how much competition is Matt Jones going to see at left guard? Is he basically going to be handed the game because he started a few and he played well last year? And then right guard, it's kind of every man for himself. It's Donovan Jackson, it's Harry Miller, Josh Schreier might be dinged up. We'll see how much he can go. And then basically, I mean, if you're anybody who's not in that first 4 spots, you want to get a crack at that right guard spot because that's the one that's wide open. And it's going to be fascinating to see, how much Justin, really just lets Paris Johnson win have the left tackle job. If there's competition there, is there competition across the board? A lot of coaches like to say that, but there's a fine line between competition and just getting guys locked into the positions. And I just got some B-roll just rolling from last year when it was spring ball, first day. The guys, you kind of see what they're in. They're just in jerseys, helmets. It's a lot of conditioning. It's a lot of making sure guys get lined up. Here you got our 3 quarterbacks, including Kyle McCord, who was an early enrollee last year. And you just kind of get a feel for what like that first day is like. Again, there's no physicality to it, but one thing that has really changed under Ryan Day, and it kind of picked up a little bit under Urban, under Tressel, when we weren't in pads at all. Like we're just in jerseys, we very seldomly went against the defense. We might have ran, maybe 10, 12 plays, but with Ryan, Ryan's different. He comes from an NFL background, and there's this thing called OTAs, which is organized team activities, which happen all summer. And they're essentially practices that start in right after the draft, so June-ish, you hear the term mini camps or it's the full team together, but outside of the mini camps, they have these organized team activities, which are essentially their football practices with no pads on. So, Ryan, I think coming from, the NFL background with the Eagles, the 49ers, he's seen how teams can get an advantage by figuring out how to practice, cohesively and well with no pads on, that's kind of a delicate art form because, with pads, everything is a go. You can bull rush guys, you can do whatever you want, but when you have pads on, and you're trying to run the ball, how are you supposed to block a defensive tackle who doesn't have pads? I mean, I get you can come off the ball and bull rush him, and then you put your helmet into his shoulder and crack his shoulder and separate it or whatever. But it's it's kind of like a unique dance when you don't have pads on because nobody wants to get shown up, especially on the interior running game. It's really hard to do. But they've gotten good at it, and it's something that I think is a huge benefit. And I think Ryan's experience, running OTAs is obviously a big benefit to running these off-season drills. But yeah, what do you? I was gonna say, it's fun seeing these guys run around. What do you think will be the most interesting storyline that comes out of the first couple of weeks of spring ball? Do you think it'll be Jim Knowles' defense? Do you think it'll be Justin Fry's impact on the running game? What are you thinking, Nevada?
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be a I'm looking at those cornerbacks, and I just want to see who's going to be out there, and who's going to provide the depth, and who's stepped up, and who's coming in that's looking good, who's had the big winner in conditioning, because we're really young and really inexperienced at the cornerback spot. And those great Ohio State defenses, it always starts with the great cornerbacks. You've got a couple lockdown guys, it gives you, the ability to do a lot of interesting things with your defense. And so I'm going to be watching the cornerbacks and the defensive secondary, because we're thin at safety and we're inexperienced at cornerback. And to me, that's going to be the story of the defense. I really do like the defensive line a lot. I like the linebackers um, a lot more than I did last year. And I think, but watching this kind of the skill guys on defense is really going to be the major storyline for me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how these guys roll. See who really grabs the thing by the horns and really gets going, because we've got this is going to be a very interesting time, and um, we've got some guys that are dinged up that are good contributors, like Lathan Ransom, Josh Proctor. We've got Kai Stokes, a young kid in from Florida. It's going to be a very interesting ordeal to see how these guys fit in. And like Kai's got a huge opportunity, because if you just look on paper, there aren't many safeties that are going to be healthy and available. I mean, I don't know if Shaw is dinged up, but there's a rumor that he's dinged up. So, sometimes in spring, it's like you show up and you're like, oh my God, I'm the second corner or the second safety, and you're brand new. So, the one benefit he has, and this is just a drill. This is from last year, because Matt Jones is obviously going to be a focal point. That's him playing center. Josh Fryer is a guy that was really coming on last year. He ended up losing out the job when they shifted Thayer and they moved Dewan, into the starting lineup. But he was really coming on, and this is like some stuff you work on. Last year they were really working on getting to the second level, and Josh does a great job here of just planning Tarajda, real violent. But Matt Jones does a fantastic job here too. So I think Matt, from an interior line perspective, physically he's like a fire hydrant. He's going to be tough. It'll be interesting to see. I'm just like you. Like I'm dying to see what. If the interior, everyone harped on the interior line, so you're going to lose Paris and Thayer. Thayer's going to get drafted. Obviously PJ's going to move to left tackle. So that's going to be now Donovan and Matt Jones. Like, will there be better production? I mean, I don't know. We were third in the nation in rushing yards per carry. So our average yards per carry was it was astronomically high. I mean, for top three in the nation, you're doing something really well. Despite our having the most prolific passing attack in the country. But it's going to be real interesting to see, how the Justin Fry impact comes along, and how our interior improves or doesn't improve. Because there's no guarantee that we're going to be better on the O line. We could be, but Nick Petit-Frere is probably going to be a first or second round pick. Thayer is probably going to be a mid round pick. So we lose those two. I mean, that's usually hard to replace. But in your projections, Nevada, who are you most excited about in terms of the new O-line guys, be it Matt Jones, Donovan Jackson, maybe another name? Who are you excited to start hearing and checking in on from these practices?
Well, I mean, Donovan Jackson's a guy whose name I just keep hearing. I've heard it all winter. I had heard it last year, and guys were excited about him. So he's the guy that I really think is going to be, a huge addition to the offensive line. They loved him all last year. They're trying to find some creative ways to put him on the offensive line, lined him up sometimes as even a second tight end. But he's been really one of the stalwarts of the winter workouts. I would say he redid his body, but he was looking pretty good before. But he's in tremendous shape now, strong, one of the strongest guys on the team, and I think he's going to be. I think he's going to take that guard spot and just not let it go, because he's he's really a guy that everybody's excited about, and I can't wait to see him on the field. He's one of my the players I'm most excited about. But probably the second most player I'm most excited about is not on the offensive line, but it's CJ Stroud. Just you really wonder with CJ. You think we go back in the Wayback Machine to last year, and CJ was kind of battling it out to see if he's going to be the quarterback, and wasn't sure. Him and Miller and McCord, and now he's coming off one of the most epic performances in Ohio State history there in the Rose Bowl. Did everything you could possibly ask from him and more. And now how does he take that? And does he take it to another level this year? Because, you know, that's what happens when guys do that. When the game slows down from them, when they figure it out, when they gain that confidence, and they have that huge, the exclamation part. And that's why a lot of people, they laugh about the bowl games. They think it's national championship or bust. And I've never been that way, because I think the bowl games can really provide a impetus and a jump start into the next season. And for guys like C.J. Stroud and for Jackson Smith and Jigba or Mecca, those guys are going to take that performance from the Rose Bowl, or Tommy Eichenberg, and take that performance from the Rose Bowl and, have it kind of extend into the spring and into the fall. So that's who I'm most excited about. And like I said, it all starts tomorrow. So it's going to be a really fun time on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that the Rose Bowl is kind of like it's like a spring game on steroids, but I mean, you look at a guy like Cade Stover, stepping in, playing great, the confidence he's carrying into the season, as opposed to, if there wasn't a Rose Bowl and he doesn't, kind of ends as kind of like a journeyman bouncing from spot to spot. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr., fantastic, a guy that you called out from the Showtime, Nuggets last December before they even took off to Los Angeles for the bowl trip. You were saying how great he looked. And I agree with CJ, because, there's no more chopping up the reps and managing okay, well, we got to give Miller a set with the ones today, and then CJ's going to go with the twos, and then McCord's going to go with the threes. Okay, now McCord's going to go with the ones, and Miller's going to go with the twos, and CJ's going to, that's all gone. It's dead. So CJ's job, he's taking every snap with the first team, unless they want to roll Kyle in a little bit, to give CJ some rest. But I totally agree with just building the chemistry, because that was something I worried about last spring, heading into the fall. And these guys get together a lot, and they throw, when nobody's watching on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, anytime they can go into the WAC and go get on the field and throw some routes. But I worried about the chemistry when, you're whoever's going to be the starter is getting about a third of the reps or a half of the reps with the first team receivers, and it ended up not mattering. But now there's no more of that. Now it's CJ, you build your chemistry to the highest level with Marvin Harrison Jr., with Emeka, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then, another, probably the biggest question on offense for me is who ends up winning the tight end gig? I mean, you think it's Joe Royer. I mean, you'd think just from talent and from, the little bit that he played. But I mean, and obviously Mitch Rossi is a great utility guy, can play some fullback. But, give me your thoughts on the tight end race, because, I mean, if there's a spot where, I don't say you worry, but I mean, the lack of experience and the lack of overall, I don't want to say the lack of talent, but, we are very inexperienced at tight end. What are your thoughts on the tight end race heading
Well,
into spring ball?
again, I wouldn't dismiss Cade Stover as tight end, and I think he's a guy that's shown he can do it. He can play it on both sides of the ball, but, we're so thin there. I just don't know how you keep him off the field at the tight end spot. He's such a willing blocker, and proven to be a more than adequate catcher of the ball. And I think with Ohio State tried to do last year, we talked a little bit about it, before the season and during the season. They like to flex those tight ends out and then kind of bring them back in and kind of change the formations with that. And that's where guys like Mitch Rossi are really helpful, because Mitch flexes out to that slot and then comes back in. It changes the whole look when he's in there. Isn't kind of an overload blocker on that side, and especially if they run like 51 slant Y banana or things like that. That really can really make a difference when they give that defense a different look right there. And I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, it'll be interesting to see how much, something that Ryan really loves to do that Urban almost never did is run two tight ends. And in the past few years, we've had, somebody, we've had obviously Ruck the last couple of years, and then, he's had like Mitch Rossi or Cade Stover or somebody who could be like a good inline blocker, put Ruck at the wing. So it'll be really interesting to see if he still likes to do his two tight end. He likes to do the tight end wing thing a lot. Because it really puts a lot. If you do that into the short side of the field, if you're on the hash, if you're on the right hash, you put it the tight end wing. I mean, that's a lot, for the defense to cover if you're going to run into the boundary, into the short side of the field. Then on the outside, you put Garrett Wilson and Olave. So it's like, you got to figure out where do you want to put your troops, so to speak, on the battlefield when you've got two terrorizing wide receivers out to the left, and then you've got a really heavy presence into the short side of the field, into the bench of the field. So it's going to be fascinating, man. I'm excited to see some of these transfers. Tanner McAllister, excited to see Chip, from Akron Hoban, see where he fits in, because he'll start off probably as like a third or second stringer, but like with spring, it's different because guys don't get pushed as hard if they've had some sort of major surgery. So it'll be interesting to see how much we get out of Cody Simon. Obviously we're not going to see Lathan Ransom at all in spring. We might see a little bit of Proctor. But it's just always fun to see who goes where. And just kind of hear what goes on in the scrimmages, because the spring game is almost essentially worthless just because it's so vanilla and they don't even tackle anymore. But the scrimmages, you can really glean some good information out of the scrimmages. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. But yeah, I'm excited, man. It's like Christmas Eve. I know the kids are excited. When you've got new position coaches, man, it's like you've got a whole new guy to impress. So it's like any positive inertia that you had with Kerry Combs or Greg Studoir or whatever is all gone. You're starting at square one, and you've done the winter conditioning stuff, but this first week of spring ball is big. But then we put the pads on, then it's huge, and I'm excited to see it. So closing, you got anything else, Nevada? We'll get two non-padded practice all the way, but then we'll start getting into the heavy stuff and the scrimmages, and I'm excited. So what do you got to close us out with?
Yeah, no, just for people, just just remember this week is really just about footwork and positioning and getting to the right spot, and there's not going to be a lot that's going to be revealed here in the first couple of days, but we'll have reports about where they're lining guys up, and that's really what if I was as a fan, that's all I'd be looking at is kind of who's playing where, who's playing on what side of the ball. Will give you an idea of how they feel about some of the things that they want to do offensively and defensively, and what things they can do given the personnel groups. But we're not going to have a lot about performance per se, but I think we're going to learn a little bit more about what Ohio State feels like they have, and that's why I'm looking forward to giving some reports this week after some spring practice.
Yeah, because again, there's always some guys that get held a little bit, or they're out of practice, and it's always interesting to see who ascends and takes those spots, because a lot of these guys have off-season surgeries. I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba was spotted in a wrist splint last week, so how much is he gonna do when he's like the Blitnikoff favorite? Like, do you really want to tote him out there, or is that an opportunity for Jaden Ballard to run a little bit with the ones? It's going to be interesting, because we're not super deep at receiver. We've got about 6 or 7 scholarship guys potentially right now, so these guys better ice your hamstrings tonight, because they're going to be running a lot tomorrow. And, it's going to be good. You start the day one install. Can't wait to see like what Jim Knowles has in store in terms of restoring the effort that the Silver Bullets need to play with, because I was critical of that last year. I didn't think our guys played hard enough, and I think Jim Knowles is really a big effort guy. So, hopefully you get these guys running to the ball, taking good pursuit angles. And that's something that you can drill all day, every day with no pads on, because you don't need pads on to show effort and to get after it. And I think that's going to be something that'll be interesting with this new defensive staff, and see how they set the tone. They've had a tough winter. Next turn is put the screws to them, and I'm excited about it. So with that, we're going to close this one out. We always, as always, appreciate you guys. This has been fantastic. And if you guys want to be on the inside of spring practice, again, we are checking with people every day. We're getting some really good intel. I'm excited to see, some of these guys that have put on some good weight, some good explosion, see what it looks like with pads on, because, it's one thing to get bigger and stronger and faster in the gym, but it's always fun to see how that translates into on the field performance, because some of these guys, especially the guys that are going from first year to second year guys, they can make a big jump. And, if you really want to know what's going on inside the program, inside spring ball, who's making a move, who's going to be that next Jackson Smith-Njigba, the next guy that's going to come out of nowhere and just become a superstar, you got to get on the scoop. BuckeyeScoop.com is where it's at. Bill the Bank Green had a fantastic update today on Brandon Innes. We're really excited about. So we've got some really good content. Our recruiting stuff is getting amped up. Alex Gleitman had a great reader on the weekend visits, because they had a huge junior day, senior day, big recruiting weekend with the Ohio State Michigan basketball game. So really good stuff. But we appreciate you. We're going to be on the boards all night. Our boards are super active. So if you or anyone in your family or in your friend circle, you want to give them a great gift, give them the gift to BuckeyeScoop.com, because I'm telling you, it's about to really ramp up now that spring ball's here. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support. Again, subscribing to this channel, leaving us a like, leave us some comments, leave us some feedback. All of that is very much appreciated. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and we're blowing up and growing like a weed. So we really appreciate you guys. With that, go Bucks! Spring ball is here, and we can't wait to bring you guys some of the insider reports. So have a great day. Take care. Go Bucks!